Today's show with Myron Metcalf is brought to you by betonline.ag. Go to clnsmedia.com/Goodman and use the promo code CLNS50 for a 50% bonus on your next deposit. Welcome into another edition of the Good and Plenty podcast. This is a special edition, a Final Four edition, a Minneapolis edition, and who else to bring on to talk Minneapolis, the weather, the hot spots, the games, the everything, than my former colleague, Myron Metcalf of ESPN. Myron, how you doing, man?
Doing well, man. It's the first time I think in a decade I haven't had to leave during Final Four week, man, so it's kind of weird.
Is it good or bad? Because, like, in a way, you want to get out of home because, you know, like, you got your kids around, you got your family, There's other people tugging. Like, it's not always a good thing to have it in your hometown.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Like, I'll be doing stuff this week, like with the girls and stuff that I wouldn't have done in past years. It's just kind of, it's different. You know what I mean? It's a different kind of approach. And, you know, the Super Bowl was here last year. So, I went to that, and that was kind of a bit like this, but I wasn't really covering the Super Bowl the way I'm covering the Final Four. So, I have a parking pass, so that's good. So I was worried about that I wouldn't get parking and I had to park like a mile away in my own city. So, that's a good thing.
I want to know, did you milk ESPN for the hotel rooms, even though your house is around the corner?
I got no hotel room, man. No hotel. I'll be driving, which is fine. You know, because, you know, it'll be cool Monday night after all the games are done to drive home as opposed to go to the hotel. We all get up for those 4 a.m. flights, you know, that whole thing. So I'll appreciate that.
I've gotten smarter over the years. I used to take those 6 a.m. flights, the first one out. And I was like, you don't get out of the arena till 2. Then you go out, especially in New Orleans. In New Orleans, it's the worst because you can just go. Yeah, you just don't sleep. But now I take I think I got like a noon flight out of Minneapolis home on Tuesday. Smart. You know, you got to be smart. And I'm too old for that shit to get up. You know, and then you come home and you nap because you fall right asleep and your family's kind of happy to see you, but then you're dead. So, all right. So
you flying Delta? What are you flying?
I'm flying Delta. Yes. Yep.
Okay. Smart, man.
So
smart move. Because there are a lot of different ways to get into Delta at that airport. It's a very Delta centric airport. So that's good.
All right. So we need the secrets of Minneapolis like that. I'm not going to lie to you. That's why I got you on the podcast. It's not for your game expertise. It's not the fact that you've covered college hoops all year. We'll talk a little bit about that, but I need some good tips on like where to go, what to do, because I was one of probably the main culprits to say like Final Four in Minneapolis. No, I'm not having it. First of all, do I have to bring a winter coat? That's what I want to know.
Well, here's the thing. I would be versatile is what I would say. Because
what do you want me to bring another suitcase for my versatility?
No,
are you crazy?
Like a shirt or something. Like, because here's the thing. It's going to get up to like 65 on Saturday. But it's the drop you got to worry about. So you could, we could go into Saturday's games and it'll feel like summer. But then when you come out, it's going to dip back down to the low 40s. So that's the thing you kind of got. It's kind of like the desert a little bit. I mean, you just got to be ready for the dip. So bring a sweatshirt, bring something to the games.
I was going to say, can I get away without a winter coat and just bring a sweatshirt? I mean, I'm not the toughest, as you know.
Yeah, no, bring a hat in the winters. You'll be fine. During the day, you won't even feel it. During the day, it'll be great. Like if I'm coming into town, I'm walking everywhere. I'm not getting in the car. I'm just walking because it'll be that kind of weather. It's just at night, if you're the type to get chilly, you probably want to bring a sweater, sweatshirt, something like that. You'll survive it.
I will survive it. I will. I'm looking forward to it because I really haven't spent any time in Minneapolis. You've raved to me about the city. Other people have said really good things about the city. So I'm excited to get to Minneapolis and to walk around and see it. And I was told the Mall of America is like nowhere near downtown. So I probably won't even get there, which is not the worst thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the mall, like, my advice is this. If you feel like you have to see it, just see it right away. I mean, you can take the light rail train from the airport right over to the Mall of America as soon as you land, right? If you have to see it. So that's what I would advise people. Like, either see it on your way into town or on your way out.
I could do it out. I mean, I got like a 1 o'clock flight going out, I think. Yeah. So I'm going to do that.
Yeah. I would do that because the problem is, like, if you say to yourself, like, okay, Friday after the press conferences, I'm going down to the mall. You're going to be stuck at the mall, man, because you're not going to get out of there. It's going to be a mess. All kinds of tourists will be there. So I would just go.
How far is it from the airport, Myra?
It's from the airport. It's literally on the other side of the highway. So the Mall of America was built on the site of the old Viking Stadium. So it's this huge footprint. But literally, there's a light. The light rail train will take you directly there to the Mall of America. 5 minutes. So it's legitimately like across the highway from the airport.
Okay. All right. What else? Give me. Let's start with restaurants. Where do I got to go? Like, it's probably even too late because I don't have any juice to be able to get in. But like, where am I going? If I want to go somewhere tomorrow night, what's like the spot to go for dinner?
So for me, like, okay, so if you want to be inside, right? Because I think Friday they'll start. There might be a few like rooftop spots that I would check out because it's going to be 60. Okay. But for me personally, the trendy spots are like, there's a spot called 112 Eatery, which is sort of a hipster spot in Minneapolis that a lot of people love. If you're like a traditional steakhouse, our St. Elmo's is Manny's. There's also a Murray's. They're different, but they're both great. I mean, the best steaks in the city are there. So I would go there.
Italian spot?
Honestly, just
you got a good Italian spot? No.
Well,
not really.
I mean, not in Minneapolis. I mean, that's the problem. There are some spots across town in St. Paul, which is not that far.
Yeah, I'm not going. I'm not going St. Paul. Like, I'm just.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not. I mean, it's again, the city isn't that spread out. So, like, there's Bar La Grassa, which is a Italian joint. I mean, that's pretty good. A lot of people go to Zello. There's another spot like that. I mean, that's good. But I wouldn't say the city's known for its Italian Loring Bar and Restaurant, Loring Pasta Bar. They have a lot of good music there. But I would more ethnic foods, like, there's good Vietnamese and Thai and things like that if you're into that.
Okay. All right. What about
Buca di Beppo too? Buca di Beppo is another spot if you want good Italian here in the town.
We got that here. Yeah, we got that here. That's a good spot.
Yeah.
All right. So we usually got our stuff, at night. I don't know if there'll be an Adidas party again. We'll see. We got the Pumps deal. We know we'll be at. What else? The Intersport. So we got some things going on. Like, I got to tell you, listen, for me, I usually stay at those places for a couple hours, and then I get kind of worn down because it's just all basketball talk, and I want to get the hell out and go to like a regular spot. Now, I'm older than you. Like where should I go? Where should people go? Coaches, people listening to the pod, like where are going to be the spots that we need to go?
Okay, I would go. I mean, this is just me. I mean, because you'll have the party scene. But if I were anybody and I was trying to go to like, hey, I want to be able to say I went to a cool spot in Minneapolis, I would go to a bar called Prohibition. Prohibition is, I believe, on the 28th floor of the W in downtown Minneapolis. So you go in, and it has like its own elevator, and you shoot up to like the 28th floor, and you can see the whole city. That's a really like trendy kind of bar. It's the kind of place where like, you know, folks, professionals in their 30s and 40s and 50s will mingle at on like a Thursday or a Friday night or Saturday night. Really, really cool spot. There's a dress code. It's not like fancy, but you got to be, you know, at least casual. But it is good food too. I mean, Prohibition is probably, if I were like, hey, go see a place in the city, I'd go there. It's really cool views overlooking the city. It's just kind of a cool spot in town that'll get you away from. Because if you're on 7th Street on a Friday or Saturday night, it's going to be chaos, right? Like young people chaos. Like
that's where everybody's going to be.
Know,
is that where everybody's going to be?
Well, that's like, 7th Street now has become like 20-something. Uptown, right, which is like an Uber right away, that's become more of like where people go and hang out who are like 30s, 40s. I mean, that's to me the cooler area personally. But yeah, Prohibition is a really cool spot. I would go are you into views? Like, are you into like seeing cool stuff? Like, what do you want to do? That becomes the thing. Do you want to like hang out or do you want to just like see cool stuff?
I mean, both. I'll jump around because I've never been in Minneapolis. So for me, it's like, listen, I want to bounce, like go an hour here. If it's good, I'll stay. If it's not, we'll bounce, you know, and you can walk somewhere, you know, like to me, it's wherever. I don't care. I mean, I'm pretty easy to deal with.
So at night, once it gets dark, just wait until it gets dark. And it's not even open that late, so you can't go too late. I would walk over to the Guthrie Theater, which I think is just a couple blocks. I mean, it's maybe 3 blocks from the stadium. And you go up. It's this world famous theater. Like all the great plays are at the Guthrie here in the city. And you go up a couple of gigantic escalators and you get on something called the Endless Bridge. And it's basically like a bridge that kind of overlooks the Mississippi River. So it's almost like you're on top of the Mississippi. Best views in the city.
Really?
I would go there. Yeah, at night, you're not going to get a better view. Then there's another spot above that at the top of the theater that has great views as well. Like the Guthrie is a place where I would say like,
gotta go.
Like if you were like, okay, where do I have to go? I would say the Guthrie should be on that list just because the views of the city are really, really cool. You know, bars, Union's a cool spot. See, if it were warm, Union has a dome and they open it up, right? So it's pretty cool. It's one of the unique spaces down there. Seven's a cool bar. Crave is a cool bar. Like a bunch of places on 7th Street, it's just going to be crazy. Like you're going to be stuck in a sea young people.
Where are all the coaches going to be for this? Is it all condensed? Like I love Indy because Indy's easy to get around. You see everybody, but you can get out and go to some other bars and get away from coaches if you don't want to be talking ball. Is everything going to be good like that, Myron? Is it going to be a great atmosphere, unlike Houston and Dallas that suck because they're spread out? Phoenix didn't have the atmosphere because it was spread out.
No, everything will be close together. Just because it's not big enough for it to be spread out, and the places that you're going to be will all be in the same part of town. Like everybody, I assume, will be downtown. Some people might go uptown. But downtown is right there, and it's walkable. So I'm assuming everybody will be there. And, like, all the bars that I'm naming, they're all right next to each other. So that'll be kind of the vibe. And if you go further – so, like, there's a part of 7th that is really, like, you know, 18 to 25-ish, right? But if you go down 7th to, like, Union and 7 and all these bars I'm naming, that's a more professional, classy – 30s, 40s, 50s kind of crowd. I would imagine I could see coaches being at like 7 on the rooftop all night just because that's kind of the place to be. But again, Uptown's a whole new space. It's not that far, and it's honestly like a 10-minute Uber ride, and you can go and see like a whole new set of spots in that part of town as well. But my guess is everybody will kind of collect around 7th Street, and when you get hungry, go to the Lowry.
The Lowry?
That's like the best way to end the night. The Lowry, Lowry.
Okay.
That's the best breakfast in town. And they serve it all day. But, like, that's a great place to end the night or to start the day.
All right. And that's open late?
It's open pretty late, yep.
Okay. All right. So where is Myron Metcalf going to be? Like, at 1 in the morning on Thursday night and Friday night, where are we going to find you?
I mean, outside the parties, I'll probably be on 7. I'll probably be somewhere there, bar hopping between the different spots. But I could also see myself being like, this is overwhelming, and just going to Uptown and just, ended up in hanging out there. Like a lot of the young professional athletes, they're in Uptown.
Okay.
But it'll be fun, man. I mean, the weather's going to be good. I mean, it won't be incredibly warm, but it's not going to be like the Super Bowl. Super Bowl is like 20 below, so it'll be a good vibe. Because
so you're not going to be hanging. You and Andrew Wiggins aren't going to be hanging out at 1 a.m.
I don't think so. I don't think so, man. I don't know where Wiggins is, but
You know what got me thinking about Wiggins last week? I was interviewing.
Terrible.
You can figure out why. I interviewed Reed Travis. So tell me, see how good you are at figuring out why I thought about Andrew Wiggins while I was interviewing Reed Travis.
Did Wiggins put up 40 or something against him?
No. Reed Travis has the best eye contact I've ever had with any person. Forget adult, athlete, whatever. The best human being. Like, I've never seen anybody have that type of eye contact. And Andrew Wiggins?
Yeah, he's right on you. Yeah.
Andrew Wiggins, I interviewed for 20 minutes. I swear he never looked at me.
Yeah, it's a different. Yeah, Wiggins, he's taking a lot of heat here too, man. Like, it's been bad. This city's going through it, man.
Well, he's kind of soft.
Butler came in.
Wiggins is kind of soft. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think the contract is what really changed everything.
Yeah.
But what were you going to do though if you're the Timberwolves?
Had to pay him.
But that's the market.
You paid him before he guarded anybody. That was the problem. So then he understood. I don't have to guard anybody. You guys already just paid me, so obviously I'm doing something well. So I don't have to change.
Yeah, and he's young enough to where it was like you figure he'll develop. Like, it's not like you don't think you think he can.
Yeah.
He just doesn't. So I mean, that's the problem with Wiggins. He's caught a lot of heat, and I mean, Karl Towns is like the king of the town now, and Wiggins is kind of, people are just, they want to find a way to get rid of him, but they're not going to get rid of him. They're stuck. So it's been an interesting vibe here, man.
Quick break to tell you today's show brought to you by betonline.ag. We're close to getting to the end of the season in the NBA. That means playoff futures are out. Is this the year that somebody finally dethrones the Golden State Warriors? Log on to BetOnline and lay some money down on who you think will hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy, or gamble on which sneaker company signs Lonzo next. BetOnline.ag is CLNS Media's preferred online sports book. Go to clnsmedia.com/Goodman. Get a 50% bonus when you sign up, or use the promo code CLNS50. Don't be left on the sidelines with all this excitement going on the court. Plus, you can play in BetOnline's virtual casino. Make some money there, too. We have 4 teams left. One of them will cut down the nets. Michigan State, Auburn, Virginia, Texas Tech. You have a 25% chance at winning some money. Get in on the action today. Whatever you do, make sure you use betonline.ag. Use the promo code CLNS50 for a 50% bonus on your first deposit. Or just go to clnsmedia.com/Goodman. How upset are you that Zion's not coming to Minneapolis?
See, I'm fine with it. I mean, I'd love to see him here. It'd be fun to keep covering him, right? But I'll tell you the text messages I'm getting from people. I'm getting a lot of, hey, I was planning to come to Minneapolis, but Duke isn't there. Like, so a lot of people, I think, were all set to come. If Duke had been here, gonna come. Beyond that, to me, like I know a lot of people here who are like, they can get tickets pretty cheap.
Oh,
like, yeah. The ticket prices right now are about average, and my guess is you're going to be able to walk in and get something really cheap, get into that building. I got a lot of buddies here who are like, they're not going to do it. I mean, they might watch on TV. They want to be here for the atmosphere, but they're not that dialed into the games. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, like, the traffic won't be what it was. I mean, if you're Minneapolis, we redid our whole airport for this, man. There's like all new machines and stuff up in the airport. Dude, it's crazy. I just don't think you're going to get – this to me might be, in terms of like casual fans, might be the worst.
One of the worst.
In any Final Four that I've ever been.
Yeah. No, I would agree. The teams just don't – listen, they don't have the sizzle. Like even Michigan State, right? Last year they had Bridges and Jaren Jackson. They had lottery picks. Like Cassius Winston's a great college basketball player, right? Like Texas Tech has a top – I think Jarrett Culver, if I'm drafting, I might take him with a number 4 overall pick. But the casual basketball fan still has no idea who the hell Jarrett Culver is.
No, and I mean, if you're a Timberwolves fan, you could care about him because, I mean, that guy could be someone you're looking at. But, yeah, I just don't – we have 2 guaranteed first-round picks. That's got to be a record, man.
Hunter and Culver.
That's got to be one of the lowest we've had, And I just – people were expecting Zion. And not just Zion, Trey Jones, man. Like, there are all these stories attached to that. Trey Jones coming home, his mom's fighting breast cancer.
Yeah.
It was sort of this built-in story. That doesn't happen. Reed Travis, maybe he comes home. With Kentucky, that doesn't happen. So I just don't know what the stories will be.
Well, the biggest story is clearly Virginia, isn't it? And it's not. It's a cool story, but what I will say is, I was there for their first round game against Gardner Webb, right? Zion played later that day in the second session in Duke, and I was pumped because I had driven from Jacksonville to Columbia. I was all excited to see Virginia. I'm walking in. I'm like, all right, there's going to be a lot of juice around this, right? Like everybody's excited to see how Virginia responds to a year ago. Tickets were going for like $5 or $10. They were giving them away, the scalpers.
Yeah.
So I wonder how much people care about this Virginia story anymore.
I just don't. The problem with Virginia is this. Obviously, I think they're probably going to be their favorite, right, to win it all now. Yeah. But you wanted to see Virginia beat Kentucky and then get the third game against Duke. And, like, that was part of it, right? Like, that would have been – because they were right. The Duke game, the second game, what did Duke make? Like 62% of their threes or something like that. So, like, you wanted to see, okay, in a normal game, how does Virginia fare against Duke? Okay, now you're playing Kentucky, the sort of anti-Virginia. So there are all those storylines. I just don't think beating Auburn will give you the same pop. It'll be huge for Tony Bennett, and those fans will never let you hear the end of it. But, if your path is Auburn, Texas Tech, I don't know who will remember it in 10 years, man. Like, I just don't know who will, how much will. They need to beat
Michigan State. They need to beat Michigan State to be honest, a Virginia-Texas Tech final, as much as I love Chris Beard and the job he's done and everything, Culver, you need a Michigan State-Virginia final to have any sort of ratings if you're CBS.
Yeah, Michigan State is the one team in this where you're like, okay, they can bring that attention. But again, how many people know anyone on that Michigan State team?
Not many.
And again, part of this thing is going to have to be, you're going to need locals to fill some of those seats, right? You're going to need locals like my buddies who are like, maybe we'll go, maybe we won't go. And if they don't have any interest, will fans at home feel the same way? I'll be interested to see the ratings and attendance, man, and compare them to past years with this Final Four.
So I was there for the Auburn Kentucky game, which I can't believe still that Auburn won that game again without Chuma. I had it penciled in. I really did. I thought for sure it was going to be, Kentucky would beat Auburn and Duke would beat Michigan State. And we might get that rematch of the Champions Classic with Duke and Kentucky. I did. We were talking about it with people all along. You were out in L.A. You were smarter than me. You did L.A. It was so shitty. To be honest, it was really, really shitty in Kansas City. The barbecue was great, but the weather absolutely sucked. But I got good games. You got good games too. You probably got the weakest games of all of them out west. So I hope you got good weather and you're able to, go out a little bit.
It was good, but it was like the games weren't. I mean, Gonzaga, Florida State was sort of, neither team was great.
Yeah.
And then Texas Tech, Michigan, I've never seen. Can you imagine a team watching the team go 0 for 18, and then they hit their last three-pointer at the buzzer? Like, it was remarkable to watch that because you're watching it, you're going.
A John Beilein team. Myron, a John Beilein team.
Dude, it was like you talking about like things getting in players' head. Like that was in their head. When they missed their first like 4, you could just see them like trying to shoot their way out of it, and it just wasn't happening. And they were just getting more and more discouraged, man. But to watch that, and Texas Tech, obviously they were good. And I was impressed by what they did against Gonzaga. But I'm still looking at Chris Beard's team and going, okay, what's the story?
Yeah.
It's bounced around. That's a really good story.
He's the story.
In terms of the national story, Like I feel like we keep telling the same Chris Beard story in some way.
Oh, I would agree. Yeah, I mean, listen, I've known him forever. I mean, I knew the story should be if you can find out what happened with him and Billy Gillispie.
Yeah.
That's your story. Go get video of him and Billy Gillispie and how it ended. There's your story.
Yeah. But then they got, winning would help elevate any story about. Because I think what he's done, I mean, it's remarkable to see that team.
Yeah.
And to watch him put another guy in the top 15 of the draft and
amazing.
Those guys play hard. He just keeps succeeding everywhere he goes. But he said it after the game. He said, look, I feel like guys are disrespecting my guys. Like, basically, like, we're not underdogs. We won the Big 12. We're not, we're not these underdogs that people are making us out to be.
Not anymore.
That's part of the problem. Well, Texas Tech might be the best team there, but they have no brand recognition, So that's going to be the interesting thing, Can they all of a sudden create Texas Tech fans the way they perform this week? It's just a weird group, man.
Auburn to me, Bruce Pearl might be the best story, right? Like Izzo's obviously great up on the podium. We know that he's going to be fantastic as he always is. But Bruce Pearl, I would think most people are going to write about Bruce Pearl on Thursday because when he gets up there, he's a human soundbite. Number one, he's got so many great stories to his background. I mean, let's, and again, I'll put it out there. Like I worked with Bruce. I hosted a radio show with him for 2 years and worked with him at ESPN for a year. So I like Bruce. I've gotten to know him well, but I'm trying to be objective here. Okay. I'm trying to be objective. The people that crush him and saying he lied about having Aaron Kraft at a barbecue, a friggin' barbecue back in the day. That's what he got thrown out of college basketball for 3 years. We are talking now about guys being put in prison for paying kids. Yeah. He lied about having a kid at a barbecue. Really?
Yeah. It's always going to follow him too, right?
Yeah.
Just how everything went down with that. But like you said, I feel like people look at that as a misdemeanor compared to the felonies today. Like, I don't think anybody ever thought we'd be talking about guys in prison. But I still think with him, it's going to be interesting to see the questions he faces because Chuck Person is, just pled guilty, right?
Yep, absolutely.
2 players on this roster missed an entire year because they were tied to the FBI scandal. There are reports that Bruce was not cooperating with the school's internal investigation. I think that press conference, man, it's going to be Bruce's show for a while. But remember, a bunch of people who don't cover college basketball are going to fly in here specifically because they want to grill Bruce. They want to find out why he's still there and why all these guys around him have lost their jobs. I mean, he's going to face a lot of that backlash, I think. It's like Mark Emmert when he shows up. Yeah, the first couple questions are positive, and then it's like, hey, by the way, why aren't you paying players yet? I think
same things.
Catch some of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But here's the difference. Bruce has thrived in the face of adversity, right? Like Arizona, look at what happened with Arizona this year. USC, look at what happened with USC. Oklahoma State, they didn't have players, so I'm not even counting them. But Bruce, through the last 2 years, look at what that dude has done with all the shit swirling around the program. It's amazing. So I don't think he's going to be rattled. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll get rattled when he sees, New York Times or Wall Street Journal or some of these news people come after him, because you're right. I think some of them will. Nancy Armour went at him a little bit from the USA Today last week, and she wrote a pretty scathing story on him, and people showed it or told Bruce the story, and he was kind of, I think he was upset. I think it hits him, even though he says it doesn't bother him. Obviously, how could it not, especially when you're going to get to the stage, right? You're going to get to the Final Four. You want to bask in this, right? You want to bask in what you did at Auburn, oh, by the way, at Auburn, where nobody thought he could do it. And you're right. There are going to be some people that come at him and try to take some of the juice and joy away.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the only – and Bruce, I don't think Bruce will be – I mean, if Bruce has to talk his way out of a tough question, he's obviously equipped to do that. But I think if you're Bruce and your players face these questions, because that's going to be the thing too, your players face some of these questions, and there's sort of that cloud, that is going to be something I think he has to deal with. At the same time, these kids are obviously resilient. They won without Okeke somehow. To me, if they lose by 30 on Saturday, you beat Kentucky without Okeke, you win. Give them something, because that, to me, was one of the most remarkable performances we've seen this year. And now it's like they can win it. I mean, they should have beat Kentucky, right? How'd they do that? How'd they maintain their composure in the last 8 minutes without them against North Carolina, which they crushed? I mean, you could make the case that the teams that they beat to get here, Carolina and Kentucky, were certainly playing as good, if not better, than Virginia has been. I mean, they play teams on that level, so why not? Why not Auburn? But there'll certainly be, I think, some people who are like, hey, what about all the other stuff that is going on with the program? So I just don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this is all portrayed.
All right, we got a couple more minutes. I'm going to hit you with one final thing. We'll talk about one topic, and that's Calipari and this lifetime contract with Kentucky. My thought on it, I think, and he does this often, and he should. He's a smart businessman. I think he used to use all the interest to get more money and more years and whatnot. But my take on this is to all right, if the right job comes along, and it's got to be an NBA job, right? There aren't a lot of NBA. I've talked to a bunch of NBA GMs and people about this, and most are not going to hire John Calipari, because what does he want? He wants control. It's about him. That's not what the NBA is about anymore. It's about the players. So Calipari doesn't really fit with most of them. Okay, so there's a handful of teams that might hire him, partially because they think he can help them get free agents. And then there's only a handful of jobs that John Calipari would take. So I don't think it lines up. But if it ever does, it's not like this lifetime contract or whatever the hell we want to call it is going to prohibit John Calipari from going wherever he wants. It's just about the number of the buyout. Nate Oates, at a lower level, took a picture with the AD at Buffalo 2 weeks ago. Big smiles on their face. He signed a deal for $800,000 a year. He's now at Alabama. It was all about the buyout. Same thing with Calipari. The number's just bigger.
Yeah. Don't know. But I also don't know that he's going to find a better opportunity to build a winning program. I don't know, man. If I were a candidate for a GM job at the NBA and I'm watching Magic Johnson not be able to bring guys to LA maybe the way we thought he would, we'll see what happens this offseason. But, if Magic can't press a button and get guys to show up, and you can't get Paul George to even sit down with you, if Magic doesn't have that, power, then man, what can GMs even do today with players kind of forming their own super teams? There's just so much uncertainty with that, like you said. And if you're Cal, you can keep doing this, the rest of your career. Even if the rules change, one and done goes away, which it will, he's still going to get the best guys, I think. He'll still be right there at the top.
Yeah.
So why leave? He told me, Kelvin Sampson, he said, I sat down with him once, and he said Kelvin Sampson told him, you're in the mix every year, and that's why you shouldn't leave. Because every single year you have a chance to win a championship. That's a hard thing to give up. So I think the lifetime contract was a smart move. I agree he can leave if there's a job that comes along, but what's the job that would come along? What's the perfect job?
A good NBA job, right? A good franchise. Like, again, the Celtics with Brad Stevens, something like that would have to happen.
Yeah.
Right? It'd have to line up where he knew the GM well. The GM believed in him, maybe understood that he pulled. You watch him coach and you're just like, I don't think he can change. He's 60 years old, I don't think he can change at 60 years old how you coached. And I don't think he fits the NBA. I don't think he fits it. I think he fits it worse now than he did the last time around, which was 20 years ago, because the game has changed. The NBA game has changed. It's all about the players now. It wasn't all about the players like it was then. So I don't think it works. I agree with you. I think he stays in Lexington. I think he retires at Kentucky. I think he goes 5, 7 more years. He goes to his late 60s, maybe even longer. I know he has said he doesn't want to, but all these coaches say that. Every one of them said, right? Every one of them says, like, I'm not coaching in my 70s. And how many we got? How many we got? Kay, Boeheim. We probably got 4.
Calhoun's still coaching, man. These guys can't. They can't help it. They can't help.
It's a drug
themselves. I mean, how many schools could, in the middle of the Final Four, to build up to the Final Four, announce that they've given their coach a big extension, and it would be the number one story? Maybe only Kentucky.
That's right. And
that
Duke,
to me, is the power that he had. And Duke, that's the power he has. We're in the middle of building up to the Final Four. His team just lost to a shorthanded Auburn team, and we're talking about Cal in this lifetime contract because he's just that big.
You're right.
He means that much.
What am I doing? What am I doing talking about him right now? But you're right. You have to.
But that's the thing, though. Where do you get that? You don't get that at UCLA. You don't get that as the GM of some franchise in the NBA that's not relevant. How
about UCLA fans? Remember when they thought they were going to get like anybody they wanted? Tony Bennett was coming to UCLA. Now the LA Times reports it's Mick Cronin and Jamie Dixon. Hello, UCLA fans.
But help me understand that, though, Jeff. I understand why the Tony Bennett's of the world would say no, right? I get that group. But, I still feel like there are
better coaches,
8, 9 guys who would see that and go, L.A., recruiting pool, brand. What has happened when people are saying no? People who you think couldn't say no 5 years ago are now I don't want any part of that.
Because if they've got a good situation, good enough, they're making good money, and they've got an administration that believes in them, that they like, and the cost of living in L.A., they're not paying. They're paying for Cal, but they're not going to pay for everybody what they're paying for John Calipari or Tony Bennett. So cost of living, hard to win, charter flights, all that stuff. Pac-12 kind of stinks. You're on late at night. You got a terrible TV contract with the Pac-12 network stinks. There's enough reasons. If you're Tony Bennett, you fit at Virginia, right? You're not, you're Bill Self. You're not leaving Kansas right now for another college job. The only way you're leaving Kansas is to go to the NBA. So, UCLA is in a tough spot right now, where they either got to be creative. I still say, just go get Bruce Pearl. I get it. I understand there might be some NCAA stuff. You call the NCAA, you find out what they're saying, because Bruce Pearl at UCLA, take away all the other shit, he'd kill it. He'd kill it.
Oh, he'd sell it. Oh yeah, he'd definitely sell that program. And you know what else Bruce can deal with? The problem with Steve, and I know a lot of those UCLA boosters and guys, is Steve couldn't mingle with those guys. Like, they didn't get a good vibe from him.
Right.
Like, I've talked to so many UCLA guys who are like, I tried to get Steve and some players to my charity event, and, like, he wouldn't return my calls. Or like, I went to some event with him, and he was really, like, distant from everybody. Bruce would be the opposite. Bruce would be at too many events, right? So I could see how you could sell that program. But the NCAA stuff is real. You know, we don't know what's coming.
We know what is coming, Myron. Everybody's coming to Minneapolis, my man. And we appreciate you going through it. The Guthrie Theater, I wrote it all down. Lowry,
the
Breakfast Spot, 7th, Union Bar. I got to figure it out. Now. I got my handbook. I appreciate you coming on. And I'm not bringing the jacket. No heavy coat. I'm gonna get a sweatshirt. If I got to buy a coat there, I'll buy a coat, but I'm not bringing one.
Well, get a hat. Bring a hat at least.
All right, I'm gonna bring a hat. All right, my man. I appreciate it. Looking forward to it. Thanks for your help, and I'll see you this week.
I'll see you.
You got it, man.
Hello, I'm Dan Lothian, host of the Behind the Media podcast on the CLNS Media Network. Along with Jimmy Young, we dive into the biggest media headlines each week with honest, informed, and sometimes irreverent perspectives. It's not all serious. We deliver information and entertainment. As we like to say on Behind the Media, we find the interesting in media so you don't have to go searching for it. Listen to our podcast and get prepped for the next trip to the water cooler. Subscribe to Behind the Media wherever you get your podcast, or find us on www.clnsmedia.com.